The galaxy was old, cold, and ruled by those who survived long enough to believe they were eternal. Great alien empires stretched across thousands of stars, each one built on conquest, fear, and long memory. They believed the universe followed simple laws. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. And patience was only shown by those too afraid to fight. Among these powers was the Velker Dominion, an ancient species of planners and watchers. They did not rush. They did not panic. They crushed threats slowly and completely. For centuries, no one had challenged them. On the edge of Velker space, a single world burned. The planet was called Kael'thar, once blue and bright with life. Its skies had held floating cities. Its oceans fed billions. Now it was breaking apart. The destruction did not come from an enemy fleet. That was the cruelest part. It came from betrayal. A neighboring empire, once an ally, had decided Kael'thar was worth more as ash than as a friend. They triggered the planet's core defenses from the inside. The shields collapsed. The ground split open. Fire climbed into the sky. Velker ships watched from orbit, unable to land. Systems failed one by one. Evacuation lines shattered. Millions were lost in silence. One Velker survivor drifted through space in a damaged vessel. He had been a historian, not a soldier. He had studied past wars, not lived one. Now his home was gone. He watched Kael'thar die through a cracked viewport. The planet folded inward, then exploded outward in a wave of light. His people's cities vanished in seconds. Their stories ended without witnesses. Fear settled deep inside him. Not fear of death. Fear of meaninglessness. The Velker believed knowledge was power. Yet all their planning had failed. All their patience had saved nothing. As the survivor's ship drifted, long-range sensors picked up faint signals. Unknown. Primitive. Barely spacefaring. A new species, living far from the core empires. They called themselves humans. The Velker records marked them as insignificant. Few colonies. Weak fleets. Too emotional. Too divided. They were slow to expand and quicker to forgive. The survivor barely noticed the file at first. What could such a species matter when worlds were dying? Still, something felt wrong. The humans did not rush to claim territory like others. They did not answer provocations with force. They waited. They endured. To the great empires, this meant weakness. A species that tolerated pain would eventually break. The Velker survivor sent a final message to his people before power failed. A warning that patience had limits. That the universe was changing. His ship fell silent as alien patrols closed in. They would capture him. Study him. Erase what remained of his past. As darkness filled the vessel, one last signal crossed his sensors. Human ships. Old designs. Damaged hulls. Moving toward the ruins of Kael'thar. Not to conquer. Not to take revenge. But to observe. The survivor did not understand why. The galaxy laughed at humans. The galaxy always laughed before it learned. And somewhere among the stars, an unnoticed species was watching the ashes of a dead world, quietly remembering everything. The Velker survivor was taken to a holding station near the broken edge of the old empires. The station circled a dead star, cold and quiet, built for prisoners who were meant to be forgotten. Here, suffering was normal. Loss was expected. The survivor was not tortured. He was studied. His memories were scanned. His history pulled apart. Every image of Kael'thar burning was recorded and stored as data. The alien overseers believed pain made creatures weak. They believed loss caused surrender. This belief had shaped the galaxy for ages. From his cell, the survivor learned more about the universe that had destroyed his home. Empires rose by crushing others fast. They won by showing fear early and often. No one waited. No one endured. Then he saw humans again. The data streams showed human worlds. They were not rich. They were not perfect. Many showed scars of old wars, climate damage, and broken cities. The Velker survivor expected collapse. Instead, he saw rebuilding. Human cities were rebuilt on ruins. Human children played near old battle sites. Human ships were patched, reused, and sent back into space. They lost wars. They lost planets. They lost millions. But they did not stop. The overseers mocked them. They called humans stubborn animals. A species that refused to accept reality. Humans felt pain deeply. That much was clear. They mourned their dead. They remembered every loss. But pain did not slow them. It shaped them. Human history was filled with disasters. Plagues. World wars. Near extinction. Each time, humans adapted. They changed laws, changed tools, changed themselves. The Velker survivor began to understand something dangerous. Humans did not treat pain as a warning. They treated it as proof they were still alive. Where other species avoided death, humans trained beside it. They sent explorers into unknown space with no promise of return. They tested weapons on the edge of failure. They stood their ground even when retreat made more sense. To the galaxy, this looked foolish. To the survivor, it looked familiar. The Velker had once been the same. Long ago, before comfort made them slow. From his cell, the survivor watched human reactions to small alien attacks. Trade ships destroyed. Outposts lost. Civilians taken. Humans did not answer right away. They documented everything. They argued. They debated. The galaxy laughed. They believed humans were afraid. They believed delay meant weakness. The survivor felt fear again. Not for humans. For the galaxy. Because humans were not preparing to surrender. They were preparing to endure. Human fleets trained in silence. Their engineers worked without rest. Their leaders spoke of patience, not peace. Patience was not kindness. It was control. The survivor sent another hidden message into the data net. A warning no one wanted to hear. Pain does not break humans. It teaches them. As the station alarms suddenly flared, unknown energy spikes appeared on the edge of known space. Human signals multiplied, quiet but focused. The Velker survivor realized the galaxy had made the same mistake twice. It had destroyed a world, and it had mistaken human patience for weakness. And something vast was beginning to move. The galaxy did not stop after Kaeldar burned. Destruction had taught the empires a lesson they liked. Fear worked. They began to push outward again. Slowly, carefully, with full confidence. Human space lay along quiet routes. Far from the old capitals. Far from attention. That made it easy. Trade lanes that humans depended on began to close. Not by open war, but by rules, fees, and sudden inspections. Human ships were delayed, searched, and turned away. Small human colonies lost supplies. Food grew scarce. Power grids failed. Medical stations went dark. The galaxy called this balance. Pirate fleets, backed in secret by major empires, struck human outposts. They took resources. They took people. They left warnings written in debris and fire. Still, humans did not respond with war. They sent reports. They sent requests. They sent envoys that were ignored or delayed. To the empires, this confirmed everything. Humans were weak. Humans feared escalation. Humans would bend. The Velker survivor watched these events from confinement. He saw the pattern clearly. Pressure without mercy. Pain without limits. This was how Kaeldar had fallen. Inside human space, suffering grew. Families abandoned frontier worlds. Ships flew with broken armor. Crews slept in short shifts, always alert. Human media showed funerals. Names read slowly. Faces remembered. They did not hide their pain. They carried it openly. Behind closed doors, humans began to change. Old rules were rewritten. Civilian factories shifted quietly to military work. Science teams were given full freedom, not safety. Human fleets trained near unstable stars and dangerous gravity wells. They practiced fighting while damaged, while outnumbered, while cut off. Loss was expected. Survival was planned. Alien observers noticed these changes and laughed. They called it desperation. A dying species preparing for an ending. Then the galaxy made its final move. A human diplomatic convoy was intercepted near neutral space. It carried no weapons, only envoys and records. Protected by law older than most empires. The convoy never arrived. Days later, a return vessel drifted back toward human space. Its hull was scorched. Its systems barely alive. Inside were the remains of the envoys. Their bodies damaged beyond respect. Their minds scanned, broken, and erased. The message was clear. This is what patience earns. Across the galaxy, laughter spread. Humans had been warned. Humans had been tested. Humans had failed. What the empires did not see was what happened next. Human networks went silent. No protests. No threats. No speeches. Only stillness. Military traffic increased without announcement. Ships once marked as outdated vanished from records. Civilian routes were cleared. Emergency laws activated everywhere at once. The Velker survivor felt the shift even in his cell. Energy patterns changed. Data traffic tightened. Human signals grew fewer, but sharper. This was not fear. This was focus. For the first time since Kaldar fell, the survivor felt hope mixed with terror, because he recognized the signs. He had seen them before, right before his own world died. The difference was simple. The Velker had panicked too late. Humans were calm. And somewhere in the dark between stars, humanity made a quiet decision. Patience had ended. The galaxy reacted exactly as expected, with arrogance. The great empires reviewed the human silence and saw victory. No angry broadcasts. No sudden attacks. No dramatic response. To them, this meant collapse. Alien analysts declared that humanity had reached its limit. They claimed the Envoy incident had broken human morale. They predicted surrender, civil fracture, or slow extinction. Public channels filled with mockery. Humans were called emotional creatures pretending to be rational. A species that talked about peace because it could not afford war. Military councils approved the final solution. A joint alien task force was formed. Large, clean, overwhelming. Its goal was not conquest. It was erasure. Human border systems were marked for removal. Shipyards, communication hubs, supply worlds. The strike would be fast and final. Alien fleets moved openly this time. No more pirates. No more hidden pressure. Only raw force. From their perspective, resistance would be minimal. Human ships were fewer. Human weapons weaker. Human technology outdated. They had run the numbers many times. Human losses were expected to be high. Alien losses were expected to be acceptable. The Velker survivor watched these plans unfold through fragmented data. He saw the same confidence that once filled Velker halls. The same belief that power alone decided fate. He tried to warn them again, but his messages vanished into closed systems and ignored channels. Inside human space, there was no panic. Civilian populations were already moving. Evacuation routes activated days before the fleets arrived. Hospitals were emptied. Children sent deep underground or far beyond the edge of mapped space. Human soldiers did not celebrate. They did not give speeches. They prepared quietly. Ships launched without markings. Old hulls were reinforced instead of replaced. Weapons were simplified, not upgraded. Human commanders assumed every battle would be lost at first. Every victory would be paid for in lives. They accepted this without hesitation. When the alien fleets crossed into human territory, they met almost nothing. A few patrols. A few warning shots. Nothing impressive. Alien captains laughed. They recorded the advance for archives. A lesson for future species who thought patience meant safety. Then the traps began to close. Navigation systems failed without warning. Communication links broke apart under sudden signal storms. Human beacons appeared and vanished across multiple systems at once. Alien fleets adjusted, confident and calm. They believed humans were improvising, panicking, reacting too slowly. They pushed deeper, faster. Human resistance increased, not in strength, in persistence. Damaged human ships refused to disengage. They stayed in combat until systems burned out completely. They rammed when weapons failed. They detonated reactors to take enemies with them. Alien commanders were confused, not afraid. Losses climbed higher than expected. Still acceptable. Still manageable. What unsettled them was the pattern. Human ships did not retreat to defend key worlds. They attacked supply lines. They struck repair vessels. They targeted command ships again and again. Each attack cost humans dearly. Each one slowed the alien advance. The Velker survivor recognized the strategy instantly. This was not defense. This was endurance warfare. Humans were not trying to win today. They were trying to make tomorrow impossible for their enemy. Alien councils dismissed the concern. They said humans would exhaust themselves. They said courage without control always failed. Orders were given to push harder, to end it quickly. The largest alien fleet gathered near a human core system, a place of old cities and deep history. They expected a final stand, a desperate defense, a breaking point. What they did not know was that humanity had already accepted the loss of that system, and that acceptance made the next move possible. As alien sensors suddenly detected massive energy builds far beyond the battlefield, old human stars began to change. Artificial, unstable, and deliberate. For the first time, the galaxies stopped laughing. The change in the stars was impossible to ignore. Alien sensors screamed with errors. Energy readings spiked beyond known limits. Old human systems, once ignored, now burned with controlled instability. The alien fleets hesitated for the first time. Orders overlapped. Data conflicted. Confidence cracked. Humanity had altered its strategy completely. They were no longer defending space. They were reshaping it. Stars near human core systems were pushed into artificial stress cycles. Not enough to explode. Enough to become weapons. Gravity twisted. Radiation surged. Human ships moved through these zones like they belonged there. They had trained for this pain. They had calculated survival and broken physics. Alien ships struggled. Navigation failed. Hull stress multiplied. Formations collapsed. Still, the alien commanders ordered the advance. They believed this was a final human gamble. A desperate act by a cornered species. They were wrong. Human fleets emerged from multiple vectors. Not larger than before. Not stronger. Just everywhere. They attacked without pause. No rest cycles. No withdrawal. No rescue missions for damaged ships. Wounded human vessels stayed in the fight. Burning, breaking, still firing. Crews rerouted life support to weapons. Engines to shields. Bodies to time. Human soldiers did not fight to survive. They fought to delay. To drain. To exhaust. Alien losses climbed rapidly. Far beyond projections. Entire supply wings vanished. Command ships went dark. The galaxy watched in shock as human fleets kept advancing. Even while collapsing. Even while dying. The Velker survivor felt it deep in his core. This was not rage. This was resolve. Humans did not panic when surrounded. They closed in tighter. They shortened the distance. They made retreat impossible for everyone. Alien technology was superior. Cleaner. More precise. Human warfare was something else. Messy. Relentless. Personal. When human weapons failed, they used mass. When mass failed, they used gravity. When gravity failed, they used themselves. Entire human squadrons vanished to destroy single alien capital ships. The cost was accepted before the order was given. Alien morale shattered. Not because of fear, but because of confusion. Humans were supposed to surrender. Humans were supposed to break. Instead, they advanced deeper into alien formations, cutting command lines, forcing close combat, turning space battles into grinding endurance tests. The alien fleets tried to pull back, but human forces followed, clung, latched on. They refused to let the enemy rest, refused to let the enemy regroup. For the first time in galactic history, a superior force was being worn down by a weaker one, not through brilliance, but through refusal to stop. The Velker survivor watched battle data stream across forbidden channels. Human casualty numbers were beyond anything recorded, yet their formation held. Their pressure increased. The alien command realized the truth too late. Humans were not winning by strength. They were winning by endurance, by accepting pain faster than their enemy could cause it. As the largest alien fleet attempted an emergency retreat, human forces triggered the final phase. The unstable stars flared. Space itself turned hostile. Escape routes collapsed. Alien ships were trapped between human fleets and a universe shaped against them. The galaxy felt something new. Not defeat. Recognition. Humans were not a temporary problem. They were a permanent force. And they were still advancing. The war did not end with celebration. There were no victory signals. No songs. No claims of conquest. It ended with silence. Across former alien territory, fleets drifted in broken formations. Supply lines were gone. Command structures erased. Entire regions of space marked as dead zones. Human ships remained. Damaged. Scarred. Still moving. They did not chase fleeing enemies far. They did not burn worlds in revenge. They stopped when the threat stopped. That alone unsettled the galaxy more than destruction ever could. The great empires gathered what leaders they had left. They studied the records again and again, trying to understand what they had missed. Humans had never hidden their nature. The signs were always there. A species born on a violent world, shaped by disasters, forged through constant loss. They had learned early that survival was not about avoiding pain. It was about carrying it. The Velker survivor was released from captivity months later. The station that held him no longer existed. Its controllers had fled or surrendered. He traveled through systems once closed to him, now marked with new warnings. Do not provoke human space. Do not test human restraint. On human worlds, the cost was visible. Cities rebuilt again. Graves added beside old ones. Names carved into stone and memory. Humans mourned openly. They cried. They remembered. They did not hide the damage. But they did not slow. Shipyards worked without pause. Not to expand. Not to threaten. But to be ready. Human leaders addressed the galaxy with few words and no anger. They stated simple facts. Human patience had been mistaken for weakness. Human restraint had been misunderstood. They would not surrender again. The galaxy listened. For once, no one laughed. Trade routes shifted away from human borders. Military patrols gave wide distance. Old empires rewrote laws that had stood for thousands of years. New rules were added. Never isolate human worlds. Never harm human civilians. Never test human limits. Because humans did not fight to dominate the universe. They fought to ensure it could never break them again. The Velker survivor finally reached the ruins of Kael'thar. What remained was dust and silent debris. But something new drifted there. A small human marker. No weapons. No flags. Only a record of the lost. Velker names preserved in human memory. The survivor understood then why humans had come. Not to conquer ruins. But to remember suffering that was not theirs. That was the final truth the galaxy learned too late. Humans did not need hatred to fight. They needed meaning. They did not fear death. They feared surrender. And they never surrendered. Far beyond the old battlefields, new species watched human space from a distance. Quiet. Careful. They saw a calm civilization. Patient. Measured. And they were afraid. Because the universe now knew what that calm meant.